Randolph Scott, born George Randolph Scott on January 23, 1898, in Orange County, Virginia, grew up in a large, genteel Southern family that valued discipline, education, and integrity. His father, George Grant Scott, was a respected textile executive, while his mother, Lucille Crane Scott, was known for her refinement and elegance. Randolph was the second of 7 children, and his upbringing in Charlotte, North Carolina, instilled in him a sense of quiet confidence, moral uprightness, and self-discipline. These early influences shaped the man who would later become Hollywood's stoic Western hero. Educated at private schools and later at Georgia Institute of Technology and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Scott initially aimed for a career in business or engineering, following in his father's footsteps. Military service and early exposure to Hollywood. After completing his education, Scott served with distinction in World War I as an artillery officer in France. His military service reinforced his sense of duty and resilience, traits that would later define both his screen persona and personal character. Returning to civilian life, he discovered a growing fascination with the film industry while visiting California in the early 1920s. With his tall, athletic build and striking Southern charm, he quickly caught the attention of casting directors. Scott began his career humbly, taking work as an extra and stuntman before progressing to small speaking roles. His early years were marked by perseverance and humility, setting him apart from many contemporaries and laying the groundwork for a long and distinguished career in Hollywood. Rise to stardom in early Hollywood. By the late 1920s, Scott found steady work in Hollywood, transitioning seamlessly into the era of talking pictures. His deep, resonant voice and commanding presence allowed him to stand out, particularly in dramatic roles. During the 1930s and 1940s, he appeared in a range of genres, including comedies, dramas, and adventure films. However, it was the Western genre that would cement his legendary status. Films like The Last of the Mohicans, 1936, Western Union, 1941, and The Desperado, 1943, showcased his portrayal of stoic, honorable heroes. Scott's characters often embodied moral integrity, courage, and decency, reflecting his real-life values. Audiences and critics alike recognized his ability to convey quiet strength, and his on-screen persona became synonymous with the archetypal Western hero. Collaboration with Bud Bowditcher. The 1950s marked a creative peak for Scott, particularly through his collaboration with director Bud Bowditcher. Together, they produced some of the finest Westerns of the era, including 7 Men from Now, 1956, Ride Lonesome, 1959, and Comanche Station, 1960. These films highlighted Scott as a man of action, haunted by personal regrets, yet guided by an unshakable moral code. Bowditcher's direction complemented Scott's understated, principled screen presence, creating stories that were as psychologically complex as they were visually striking. These collaborations elevated Scott beyond mere Hollywood fame, establishing him as an actor whose performances were rooted in both realism and idealism, leaving a lasting mark on the Western genre that continues to influence filmmakers today. Iconic final roles, Scott's influence extended beyond his peak, culminating in his final performance in Ride the High Country, 1962, directed by Sam Peckinpah. In the film, he portrayed an aging lawman grappling with the challenges of a changing world, a role mirroring his graceful exit from Hollywood. Scott retired on his own terms, avoiding the pitfalls of fame that ensnared many of his contemporaries. His professional ethos, quiet dignity, and steadfast commitment to craft defined his career, making him a role model for actors and fans alike. Even in retirement, Scott's legacy endured, reinforced by his careful investment in real estate and business, which ensured financial independence while allowing him to remain modest and grounded. Personal life and first marriage. Scott's first marriage in 1936 was to Marion DuPont, a woman from one of America's wealthiest industrial dynasties. Marion, daughter of William DuPont Sr., was a strong-willed and independent equestrian who owned Montpelier, the historic Virginia estate formerly home to President James Madison. Before marrying Scott, she'd been married to George Somerville, and Scott had served as best man at that wedding. Despite the glamour surrounding their union, their marriage faced challenges due to differences in lifestyle and geography. Scott's burgeoning Hollywood career in California contrasted with Marion's life centered on horse breeding in East Coast social circles. Their marriage lasted only 3 years, ending in 1939, though the separation was reportedly amicable. Second marriage and domestic life. After years of bachelorhood, Scott found lasting happiness with his second wife, Patricia Stillman, whom he married in 1944. Patricia, an actress 21 years his junior, left her career behind to focus on family life. This marriage reflected a quieter, more intimate side of Scott, marked by domestic contentment rather than social strategy. They shared 43 years together until Scott's death, exemplifying stability and partnership. Their life together, away from Hollywood's glare, reflected Scott's commitment to his family and personal values. Patricia's presence reinforced his private nature, and the couple's long-lasting marriage highlighted the contrast between Scott's early career entanglements and his later life devoted to love, loyalty, and quiet satisfaction. Relationship with John Wayne. Despite being contemporaries and both icons of the Western genre, Scott and John Wayne never shared personal warmth. Randolph Scott reportedly harbored a deep dislike for Wayne, famously remarking that Wayne was the last man I'd ride the range with. Their professional paths occasionally intersected, but they largely remained apart, maintaining a silent feud that became part of Hollywood folklore. Scott's disdain was rooted in personal differences, contrasting approaches to fame, and perhaps artistic philosophies. While Wayne embodied larger-than-life heroism, Scott's strength lay in quiet moral authority. Their contrast ultimately helped shape the Western genre, balancing theatrical bravado with grounded realism, though any personal camaraderie between the two was entirely absent. Professional legacy and influence. Randolph Scott's career was defined by professionalism, restraint, and moral clarity. Unlike many of his peers, he avoided celebrity excess, instead cultivating a reputation for dependability, humility, and integrity. His Western heroes, stoic yet complex, influenced generations of actors and filmmakers. Scott's collaborations with Boetticher, along with his careful role selection, ensured a legacy of nuanced storytelling and cinematic craftsmanship. His retirement from the screen preserved his dignity, and his prudent business investments secured his financial independence. Beyond acting, Scott's life embodied the values his characters portrayed: honor, loyalty, and moral steadfastness. He remains an enduring figure in Hollywood history, celebrated for his quiet but profound impact on the Western film tradition. Death and posthumous recognition. Randolph Scott passed away in 1987 at the age of 89, succumbing to heart and lung ailments in Beverly Hills, California. He was interred at Elmwood Cemetery in Charlotte, North Carolina, alongside his wife Patricia, who died in 2004. Their mid-century modern home was demolished in 2008, yet Scott's legacy endures through his films and personal archives. The Randolph Scott papers, including photographs, scrapbooks, correspondence, and house plans, were donated to the UCLA Library Special Collections, preserving his life and career for future generations. His enduring influence is reflected in how audiences and historians view the Western genre, as a space for moral complexity, understated heroism, and timeless storytelling, hallmarks of Randolph Scott's remarkable career.